Hello, family. This is Odam Setu coming back to you again with another episode of the channeled message that we've been diving into between divine masculine and divine feminine. And honestly, this was a part of the conversation that I channeled, but I wasn't, I wasn't going to dive into this part, at least for, not for a while, because it just seemed like, like a very private part of the conversation that needed to be, I guess, saved for later or something. But for some reason today, I felt led to go ahead and record this part and share this part because apparently it's important. So I'm just gonna start off. It's like this part of the conversation, it is this back and forth between both of them, between her and him, and I'm just gonna read it to you as it was channeled through, and then we'll dive into it after that. So the first part of this particular channeling session, I heard the song Message in a Bottle by Sting. Message in a Bottle. That's what I heard. Take that however it resonates. But the first thing that she says, this is her starting off the conversation. And the first thing she says is, "Who told you I was talking about you?" And then he says to her, "You did." And it's like she's taken aback and she says, "Okay." And then he says, "I love you, but I had to let time and choice make the best option. So I chose equally. I divided the two. I divided the two between her and you." And apparently this is, and it can go in so many different ways, but it's like the divine masculine here is saying that apparently whenever they, I guess, shared time and space with each other, that there were two queens on the board, basically. One was her and one was the other. And it sounds to me like he chose the other option because at the time that he was in, whatever particular time and space, in that part of his lifetime that he was in, the other person was the best option at the time. And so that's what he chose. And what I wrote beside that was this the hard truth? Like, was this one of the hard truths? And it can, this story can go so many different ways in terms of what the quote unquote hard truth is. Take it however it resonates. But like I said, this was one of those seemingly, private sessions of the conversation. And like I said in the previous episode, some pieces and parts of the conversation are stories for other days or for not at all. And I guess this was the story for this particular day. So anyway, so going back into their conversation, this is what, like I said, this is what he says to her. He says, "I love you, but I had to let time and choice choose the best option. So I equally divided the two between her and you." And then the divine feminine says, "Yes, I figured that." It's like, she's like, and I guess that makes sense because, in the previous episode, she was like, yeah, I kind of already knew that this or that, take it however it resonates, was the hard truth that you didn't want to share. But she says, "Yes, I figured that. I kind of already knew. And I respect that now way more than I would have been able to back then." by the way, how did that work out for you? so she's like, yeah, I kind of figured that, and hey, it is what it is. You telling me now, it's it's easier to hear it now than it would have been back then. And by the way, how did that work out for you? And this is what he says. This is interesting. This is what I heard during the channeling session. In parentheses, I wrote, at that time, close parentheses, quite well. Then cunning love appeared later. It seemed firsthand like a true love story, the one I have been waiting for. But there was underlying parts to it at the time, and I could not or chose not to recognize. And then she asked him, like what? Like what part that, I guess, did he choose to or not to recognize? And he says she had another too. She was torn between that her energy mostly resonated with. So apparently his his other feminine counterpart, she was in love with someone else, with another masculine. And on the side here, I wrote the cunning masculine. Here he says, and this, like I said, this was all wrote down as I channeled this in. They liked to make money together, big money, and they hid the tremendous love they had for each other. So it sounds like they like to make money together, big money, and they hid the tremendous love they had for each other. Okay, that's pretty self-explanatory. And then the divine feminine asks, how did you find out about this? And then divine masculine says, she finally told me. When things got rocky, she spilled the beans and said she really loved him and was ready to start again with not me, but him. And then divine feminine says, oh, I see. So that was the way that particular channeling session went. And it was like later during the day, I heard Big Mama say, and and I actually saw like this part of the scene of this movie come up for me, but it was in the movie Big Mama's House, and it was a part where Big Mama was saying, you can't always come with your shaboy boy. It was like, and then it was like I heard this part where it says, and I wrote this down, it says, quit coming with the shaboink boink all the time. I guess if you do this, you'll end up getting more. And so I think the major two points here is this: the divine feminine, it seems like she's been on this journey for quite a while to find the fragmented pieces and parts of herself. Okay, and it's like she's not as interested, I guess, in that, self-satisfying, that lower chakra, if you will, part of herself, because she went on this higher learning journey. And what I wrote down here is she's trying to tap into the most recognizable part that lives in you. Her divine feminine is her first love. So coming to her all the time with that part or portion of yourself, it's almost like that part she's rejecting it, because it's like she was working on her higher chakras, so it was like that the lower chakra part of herself, it was like, no, I'm not really interested in that part at the time. And then I wrote, when she recognizes this, it puts her in her free flow state, which is her natural state of being. Okay, so if we're looking at this and analyzing this part of the channeling session, then it certainly seems that what we're looking at is, if the divine masculine is coming to the divine feminine and he is wanting to engage with her in a way that she can truly connect to, when he taps into that part of his self, which is his true self, like the self that is not afraid of being vulnerable about how it feels about self. And when she recognizes that part of the divine feminine coming out, engaging with her out of him, then it's almost as if that is the attractive part that she can, the fragmented part, divine feminine, is recognizing divine feminine. And the Bible says spirit knows spirit. So this is her being able to recognize the part of herself that is coming out in her counterpart, in her, other self, which is him. Wow. So when she recognizes this, it puts her in a free flow state, which is her natural state of being. Wow. Okay. Wow, that's really interesting. Now, I think I'm gonna end the portion of the reading here, and we will continue in a moment. All right, and we're back. Okay, so in this part of the conversation, and again, this was channeled in, and I wrote these parts down as the feminine and the masculine were talking to each other. And in this part of the conversation, he says, I thought you would not be able to handle this part of me, i.e. my story. And again, this goes back to what we were discussing in the previous episode, is there was a hard truth that, he didn't know how she was gonna, how she was gonna handle it, how she was gonna take this information. He didn't want to hurt her. But I get the sense right here that eventually he knew he would end up telling her the truth, later on down the road. And again, the divine feminine says to divine masculine, I kind of already knew, and I still accepted you as you are. Yes, even that too. And right here, you know what I get is the sense that, like I said in the previous episode, she has the ability to read his energy very well. It's like this is past life love. Like, they know each other in and out. Okay, it sounds like a twin flame reunion is what it sounds like. And I really didn't want to use those terms, I guess, like that, because some people it resonates with and others it don't. But take it how it resonates. This is what this sounds like. It sounds like this is a twin flame reconnection, and no matter what happens between this connection, they know each other, and they know each other so well until even when truth is hidden or attempted to be hidden, it's really not hidden, because when you know that piece and part of yourself that well, even when you don't have the full detail, you still know enough about the truth to be able to recognize the true part of the story that you know. This is what this air of this energy is saying. And so after she says that, I hear, and thus I write down this part of it. I wrote down the word still, and still equals acceptance. And I saw the zero, the number 0 or the letter O, same thing. Okay, because to have a 0 means to go into the void. It's nothing. Okay, it is being still. Okay, and it seems like this is where they are in terms of them getting this time and space of nothingness to have this conversation together, in order to be able to start from where creation is birthed in terms of a new story and start it all over again. This is what's happening to their story. It's like they're being still enough to recognize what went right and what went wrong in their old story, so that they get the opportunity to write a new one and know how to do it better. Okay, and so writing that down, still equals acceptance, and acceptance equals the number 0. It's like what she said to him in the previous segment. She said, "Oh, I see." It was like she was accepting, his truth, even when she asked a couple of probing questions to get further information on the subject matter. It was like she stayed in an accepted state of balance to be able to say, "Oh, okay, I see." And then oh wow, and then what's interesting is she says, this is the divine feminine, she says, "You don't mind making me say, 'Oh, this way.' So why mind making me say, 'Oh, that way?'" And so, I'm just gonna keep it very, very G right here. I'm not gonna dive deep into. We all know what that means, okay? And I'm hearing that song, "Oh" by, I think, Omarion. Okay, I'm hearing that song, but it's like she's saying to him, "Okay, when you hear the sound, okay, oh, come out of me. You love to hear it come out of me this way, but I need you to equally love hearing me say, 'Oh, that way,' meaning by way of truth, as well as by way of the passion of love between two people." That's what I'm hearing. And at this particular juncture, I was channeling the number 8, like 888. I was seeing 3 times 8 equals 24, and I was seeing 6 times 4 equals 24 as well. Because in one of the previous episodes, we said that, he has divine masculine, has been on this journey to find pieces and parts, fractionalized pieces and parts of himself as well. And one of the things I said was you need 4 6s, not just 3. And so 6 times 4 equals 24, and 3 times 8 equals 24, and 888 certainly is like a super completion code of endings and new beginnings. And so this is the part where I heard him and saw him say, wow, this is the real one. She's the true blue. This was the part where, when we discussed in the previous episode, that he was like, wow, she's the real deal. Like, because anybody who has the ability to accept your truth for whatever it is, it almost seems like the question is, how would you not be able to build with that person? Like, it seems like those two people would be able to build whatever they wanted together. To be able to meet at ground zero and find balance in both truth and love. Because the waves of life, they're going to go up and down. The same way you can have money today, your ass can be broke tomorrow. It just is what it is. Okay? This is the way things are, at least right now. The conditions of a life on planet Earth. And so, just like the waves in a water, that song again is coming back, Arc of a Diver. Just like waves in water, sometimes you're going to go above the wave and sometimes you're going to go below it. Sometimes you're going to come up to breathe for air and sometimes you're going to have to hold your breath. It's like, this is what these two energies are finally figuring out with each other, is that nothing is just one way. Sometimes it's going to be this way and sometimes it's going to be that way. But as long as we have the ability to love each other in truth and in love, and being in love with truth and accepting the truth of who we are and what we are and how we are, why we are, the when and the where, it'll be time for that. It's like, that is your divine timing space. Okay? And also here, I was channeling as well the number 576. Now the number 576 is an angelic code. Okay? It's the number 144 times 4. All right? And the number 576 also is like unto the number 567. It's an order number, okay? By way of change, because the number 5 is all about change. Change on the way to completion. Oh, you know what? That reminds me. Oh my gosh. This is so synchronistic. Because as I was pulling some cards in regards to this particular channeling session, I pulled all 4 of the number 7s in the 52 card deck. I pulled the 7 of diamonds, the 7 of hearts, the 7 of clubs, and the 7 of spades. And then I pulled the number 5 of diamonds as well together. And during this time when I was channeling the number 576, I was pulling diamonds back to back. I'm talking about diamonds on top of diamonds on top of diamonds. So this lets me further know that these two people, this is not going to be a big I and little you scenario. Okay, take this information however it resonates. But if this is your divine feminine, as you are the divine masculine, or if this is your divine masculine as you are the divine feminine, either way, okay, it sounds to me like what this is the 5 here is 5 of diamonds here is representing two people that come together in a balanced state of finance and resource. There's not going to be a big I and a little you in this scenario. Okay? it sounds to me like you're basically going to be on the same playing field when it comes to resources. So looking for this whole scenario of Prince Charming rushing in to save the day, financial aid, like, it doesn't sound like that's going to be the case, because you're starting at ground zero, building together. And as long as there's equal partnership and being in a state of acceptance of knowing that 1232 on the timer, as we said that, which is again another angelic code. It's a Yeshua code. It's all about truth. All right, and it's the number 8 again, beginnings, endings, and new beginnings. So it just sounds to me like sharing is caring. The care bears for all the 80s babies that's gonna be listening to that. Sharing is caring. And in order to share, Care Bear, you have to have a big heart. Okay? You have to have a big heart, and you have to not mind walking in a state of humility. And so it sounds to me like this divine masculine and divine feminine are finally figuring that out. They're figuring out that, no one person is going to super pull this load and the other one super pull that. It's gonna be like a balance, okay? We want to learn how to float properly in water, not just always, have to harshly swim through it. And then one of the things I heard them say equally to each other is this: don't ask me to do no thing, meaning that 0 again. Don't ask me to do no thing that you don't want to, using the basic principles of 2. Here it's like they're saying to each other, if you don't, it's like they're saying to each other, listen, if you don't want me doing this, then I need you not to do that, okay? And if you don't want me doing that, then I need you not to do this, in order to stay in a state of balance, okay? But at the same time, we need to be mature enough to ask each other for what we need if we feel that we're not getting it, okay? There has to be an open line of communication for this total completion of change to happen. And it's almost as if, and I wrote this down at the very bottom, what they're creating here is equaling respect for each other. That's what they're doing. They're creating like the principle of respect for each other in balance within the frameworks of truth and love. Wow, that's really beautiful. That's really beautiful. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and end the reading there. Oh wow, this is getting really interesting. For more content like this, please like, share, and subscribe. You can find me Oream Setu I-44 Collective Messages on YouTube. I am also on TikTok, on Facebook, and on Instagram. Just look for the Oream Setu page in the description box below. I hope this information is helping those that are listening. Again, take the information as it resonates and leave what does not. Thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time,